The year was 1519. Along the shores of the Gulf of Mexico, strange sails appeared on the horizon. The people who lived there had never seen ships like these before. Floating fortresses taller than houses, carrying men clad in steel, riding beasts that seemed to be part man, part animal. The earth trembled beneath hooves, and fire thundered from handheld weapons that belched smoke and death. At their head was a man whose name would forever be written into both glory and infamy, Hernan Cortés. This ambitious conquistador would lead a force of barely 600 men into the heart of one of the most powerful civilizations in the world, the Aztec Empire, and bring it crashing down. His story is one of ambition, cunning, violence, and resilience, raising questions that still haunt history. Was he a visionary who expanded the world, or a destroyer who brought devastation? Hernan Cortés was born in 1485 in the small town of Medellín, in the province of Extremadura, Spain. His family belonged to the lesser nobility, hidalgos, with honor but little wealth. His father, Martín Cortés de Monroy, served in the military, while his mother, Catalina Pizarro Altamirano, raised him with hopes of a better future. From an early age, Cortés was restless, intelligent, and ambitious. At 14, he was sent to study law at the University of Salamanca, yet books and classrooms could not hold his attention for long. Cortés dreamed of adventure and fortune, and at the time, Spain's horizons were expanding across the Atlantic. Stories of Christopher Columbus's voyages and the riches of the New World inflamed his imagination. After 2 years of study, Cortés abandoned law and set his sights on America. In 1504, at the age of 19, Cortés sailed for Hispaniola, modern-day Dominican Republic and Haiti. He arrived with little money, but plenty of ambition. On the island, he built a modest reputation, working as a notary and participating in expeditions. He learned about colonial administration and earned land and indigenous laborers, gaining his first taste of power. In 1511, he joined an expedition to Cuba under Diego Velázquez. The conquest of Cuba was swift and brutal, and Cortés proved himself capable, both as a soldier and administrator. Velázquez rewarded him with land, slaves, and political responsibility, which gave Cortés wealth and influence. Yet he remained restless, eager for greater glory. Rumors had begun to spread of wealthy civilizations to the west, across the waters of the Gulf of Mexico. In 1518, Velázquez organized an expedition to explore and establish contact. Cortés maneuvered his way into command of the venture, using his charisma and political skill to secure the position. However, Velázquez grew suspicious of Cortés's ambition and attempted to revoke his commission at the last moment. Cortés ignored the order. He quickly prepared his fleet, rallied his men, and sailed for Mexico in February 1519, determined to seize his destiny. Cortés landed on the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula with around 600 men, a handful of horses, and a few cannons. From the beginning, he understood that success would depend not only on weapons, but also on diplomacy and alliances. He cultivated ties with indigenous groups hostile to the Aztecs, promising them liberation from Aztec tribute and sacrifice. One of his greatest advantages came in the form of a woman. In 1519, Cortés received a slave woman named Malintzin, later known as La Malinche or Doña Marina. She became his interpreter, advisor, and confidant. Fluent in both Maya and Nahuatl, she allowed Cortés to communicate directly with the Aztecs. More than that, she provided invaluable intelligence about the politics of the region. Their partnership would prove decisive in the conquest. As Cortés advanced inland, he encountered both fierce resistance and unexpected allies. The Tlaxcalans, traditional enemies of the Aztecs, fought him fiercely at first. But when they realized the Spaniards could be useful against their hated overlords, they switched sides. This alliance gave Cortés thousands of native warriors who fought alongside him. In November 1519, Cortés entered the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan, a breathtaking city built on an island in the middle of Lake Texcoco. Its scale and beauty astonished the Europeans, with grand temples, causeways, and markets larger than any they had seen in Europe. The Aztec Emperor, Moctezuma II, received Cortés with cautious hospitality, Moctezuma may have believed Cortés was linked to a prophecy of the god Quetzalcoatl's return, or he may have sought to appease the newcomers until he could better understand their strength. For several months, Cortés and his men lived in Tenochtitlan as uneasy guests. They marveled at the city, but also recoiled at its practices, particularly human sacrifice. Cortés, ever calculating, seized Moctezuma as a hostage, effectively ruling the empire through him. But news soon arrived that Velázquez had sent another force to arrest Cortés for disobedience. Leaving a small garrison in Tenochtitlan, Cortés marched to the coast, defeated his pursuers, and convinced many of them to join his cause. When he returned, however, the situation in the capital had erupted. In his absence, Spanish troops under Pedro de Alvarado massacred Aztec nobles during a religious festival. The city exploded in revolt. Cortés returned to find Tenochtitlan in open rebellion. Moctezuma attempted to calm his people, but was killed. Whether by Spaniards or his own people remains uncertain. Under siege and outnumbered, Cortés and his men attempted a desperate nighttime escape in June 1520. The event became known as La Noche Triste, the Night of Sorrows. Hundreds of Spaniards and their native allies were killed as they tried to flee across the causeways. Cortés himself barely escaped with his life. Though battered, Cortés refused to surrender. He regrouped his forces, rebuilt alliances, and laid siege to Tenochtitlan in 1521. After months of brutal fighting, starvation, and disease, the city fell. The once great Aztec capital was left in ruins. Cortés declared the territory New Spain, with himself as its governor. From there, Spanish colonization expanded, forever transforming the Americas. As governor, Cortés faced challenges from both indigenous peoples and rival Spaniards. His rule was marked by ambition and ruthlessness, but also by efforts to establish order, spread Christianity, and exploit the land's resources. He built Mexico City atop the ruins of Tenochtitlan, laying the foundation for modern Mexico. Yet his enemies in Spain accused him of treachery and misrule. The Spanish crown, wary of any subject gaining too much power, curtailed his authority. Cortés returned to Spain several times to defend his reputation, but his relationship with the monarchy remained strained. In his later years, Cortés's fortunes declined. Though he was granted titles and wealth, he never regained the power he once held. He continued to lobby for recognition of his achievements, but he often felt unappreciated by his king and country. Hernán Cortés died in 1547 in relative obscurity at the age of 62. He left behind a transformed world. Spain had become a global empire, and the Aztec civilization was gone, replaced by New Spain. His legacy was both monumental and controversial. Cortés is remembered as a brilliant strategist, a daring adventurer, and a man of unrelenting ambition. Yet he is also remembered as the bringer of destruction, whose conquest led to the collapse of a great civilization and the suffering of millions. His life forces us to confront the complexity of history. Was he a hero of discovery or a villain of conquest? The truth lies somewhere in between. He was a man of his time, driven by faith, ambition, and the hunger for glory. Facts about Hernán Cortés. He was distantly related to Francisco Pizarro, the conqueror of the Inca Empire. Cortés was originally studying law before abandoning it for adventure. He often relied on native allies, especially the Tlaxcalans, who were crucial to his success. His interpreter, La Malinche, became both his advisor and the mother of his first son. Cortés ordered his ships burned or dismantled to prevent retreat, though historians debate the exact details. He brought the first sugarcane plants to Mexico, laying the foundation for the colony's sugar industry. Cortés personally owned vast estates in Mexico, including thousands of indigenous laborers. He once led an expedition to Honduras that nearly ended in disaster. He was knighted into the prestigious Order of Santiago. Despite his fame, Cortés died feeling neglected by his king and country. Hernán Cortés's life was a story of audacity and ambition, of a man who dared to gamble everything on a dream of glory and won, at a staggering cost. With just a few hundred men, he toppled an empire that had stood for centuries. His conquest reshaped continents, redrew maps, and changed the course of human history. But his story also reminds us of the price of conquest: the destruction of civilizations, the suffering of millions, and the questions of morality that still echo today. Cortés was both conqueror and colonizer, visionary and destroyer. In the end, his legacy is not one of simple triumph or villainy, but of the complex forces that drive human history: the thirst for power, the clash of cultures, and the indomitable will of one man to carve his name into eternity.